The great hall of the alien palace was silent. Tall stone walls shone with strange blue light, and soldiers stood on both sides like statues. At the center, the alien leader, a tall figure with golden armor, looked down at the human standing before him. This human was not big, not strong like the alien warriors, but there was something in his eyes. A fire, a will. The leader's voice was heavy. "You will guard my daughter." The words moved through the hall like thunder. Some soldiers turned to each other in shock, some even laughed quietly. Guard duty for the princess was always given to the strongest, the proudest warriors. Never to a fragile outsider, never to a human. The human gave a small nod. "I will do it," he said, his voice calm, steady. The princess, standing near her father, raised her chin, her eyes sharp with pride. She did not like this order. In her mind, humans were weak, simple, unworthy, she thought. Why him? Out of all the guards, why this human? Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she said nothing. The alien leader looked at the human for a long moment, his golden eyes shining. Finally, he said, "Do not fail. For if you fail, you will not only lose your life, but my daughter will lose hers." The human bowed slightly. "I understand." From the corner, alien warriors whispered, "He will not last one night. A single blade will finish him." Another scoffed, "This is an insult, giving such a role to a weak creature." But the leader did not explain. He did not answer their doubts. He only gave the command, and the command was law. The human turned and walked out of the great hall, his steps firm, his heart already preparing. The princess followed with cold silence, her steps light, her silver dress flowing like water. Outside, the alien night was alive with strange sounds, creatures calling, winds moving through the tall black trees. The palace towers rose high behind them, shining like blades in the sky. The human walked a few steps behind the princess, his eyes scanning the shadows. He felt the eyes of the alien guards watching him, waiting for him to fail, waiting for him to prove their whispers right. The princess finally spoke, her voice sharp. "I did not ask for you. I do not need you. You will only slow me down." The human answered softly, "I was ordered to guard you, and I will." She turned her head slightly, her silver eyes narrowing. "And if danger comes, will you stand in front of me? Will you die for me, human?" He did not hesitate. "Yes." The word made her pause. A flicker of confusion passed through her face. For her, death was a word of honor, of sacrifice, but she never imagined a human would say it so simply, so easily. She turned away, pretending not to care, but inside, a seed of curiosity was planted. Night deepened. The human stood at her door, guarding, watching. The alien guards who walked past gave mocking smiles. Some even whispered insults, but he did not move. He did not answer. He only stood, like a wall, like a shadow that refused to leave. Inside her chamber, the princess lay awake, unable to sleep, her mind restless. She thought of the human's answer. "Yes, I will die for you." Why would he say such a thing? Why would he risk so much for someone who was nothing to him? She pushed the thought away, telling herself it was pride or foolish bravery. But still the words stayed in her head like a quiet echo. The palace halls were still, the air heavy, but somewhere in the darkness, a pair of eyes watched, cold and waiting. Far from the princess's chamber, shadows moved quietly across the palace walls. Figures dressed in black climbed like spiders, blades hidden, poison ready. The first night of the human's guard was not going to be quiet, not going to be safe. And, as he stood at her door, calm and silent, the danger was already coming, closer and closer. The human did not know it yet, but the order he had accepted so simply was about to test everything. The whispers of doubt, the mocking smiles, the princess's cold words. All of it would soon change, because tonight, the human would show them something they had never seen before. Not strength of body, not power of alien blood, but something else, something far stronger, the kind of strength only humans carried. And it all began with a simple order: guard her, that was all. Yet it would cost him everything. The night grew darker, the shadows grew closer, and the story was only beginning. Morning came slowly over the alien city. The palace walls glowed under the rising sun, and the air carried the sound of horns calling soldiers to training. But one figure stood apart, the human guard, silent at the edge of the courtyard. Alien warriors marched in shining armor, their weapons flashing like fire, their bodies tall and strong. The human was smaller, his armor simple, his weapon just a standard blade. To the aliens, he looked weak, out of place, like a shadow among giants. They whispered to each other as he walked by, their words sharp with laughter. "He is no warrior," one said. "He is a toy, nothing more." Another added, "The princess is safer with a door lock than with him." Their voices carried, and they wanted him to hear, but the human did not answer. His eyes were calm, his face quiet. He simply continued walking. This silence made them angrier, because he did not defend himself, did not argue. To them it felt like arrogance, but to him it was focus. He was not here to win their respect. He was here to guard. The princess watched from a balcony, her silver eyes narrowing as she saw the human moving below. Part of her agreed. With the warriors, she thought he was an outsider, a mistake. But another part of her remembered his answer from last night, remembered how quickly he had said he would die for her. That memory bothered her. It did not leave her mind. Later, she walked into the training yard where warriors gathered. Her presence made them bow their heads, their voices falling silent. The human stood at the edge, waiting for her to pass. She looked at him, her voice sharp. "Do you even know how to fight? Or are you just here to stand and watch?" The warriors laughed behind her, some covering their mouths, some not even trying. The human looked at her and then at the training weapons stacked on the rack. He stepped forward and picked up a staff, his grip steady. Without speaking, he walked into the center of the yard. The laughter grew louder. "He wants to fight? This will be short." A tall alien guard stepped forward, his chest broad, his eyes full of pride. He spun his blade in his hand, smiling. "I will test him, princess." The duel began. The alien moved fast, his blade cutting through the air with deadly power. The human stepped aside, his movements small, sharp, controlled. Each strike came down like thunder, but he dodged, deflected, never panicking. The warriors grew louder, cheering for their brother, expecting the human to fall any moment. But the longer the fight lasted, the quieter the yard became. Because the human was not falling, he was not weak. His steps were light. His staff moved like water, blocking blows, sliding past. Then suddenly, with one sharp movement, the human struck. His staff hit the alien's wrist. The blade fell to the ground with a heavy clang. The tall warrior stepped back, his face red with shock. The yard fell silent. No one laughed now. The human lowered his staff, standing calm, his breathing steady. He did not raise his arms in victory. He did not smile. He simply walked back to his place. The princess stared at him, her heart beating faster. She wanted to speak, to say something, but no words came. Because for the first time, she saw what the others did not. This human was not weak, not useless. He was something else, something harder to name. Later that evening, the princess called him into her chamber. Her voice was cold, but her eyes held a trace of curiosity. "You fought well today," she said slowly. "But fighting in a yard is not the same as fighting in the dark. When blades come from shadows, when enemies do not play fair." The human bowed his head. "I know," he answered, "but I am ready." She studied him, her silver eyes searching. "Why are you ready? You are not one of us, you do not belong here, yet you stand as if this is your home." He looked at her, his voice calm. "Because you are my duty, princess. And duty is not about belonging. It is about standing where you must stand." Her lips parted slightly, but she said nothing. That night, as the palace grew quiet again, whispers of unrest filled the air. The guards spoke of strange movements in the city, of unseen hands gathering power. The human listened, watching every shadow. Every flicker of light. The princess, lying awake once more, found her mind returning to his words. Duty is not about belonging. She thought of how her own people doubted him, how they mocked him. Yet he did not break. He stood apart, an outsider, yes, but one who refused to bend, and for the first time a thought crossed her mind that she quickly pushed away. Perhaps this outsider is stronger than those who laugh at him. Outside her window, far beyond the palace lights, a group of cloaked figures gathered in the forest. Their leader raised a hand, his voice low. "Tomorrow night, we strike again, and this time no one will stop us." The human could not hear them yet, but his instincts already told him the truth. Danger was not far. It was coming closer, step by step, shadow by shadow, and when it came, he would be the first to stand, even as the outsider, because that was his place, his choice, his duty. The story of the human was only beginning, and none of them, not even the princess, could see how far it would go. The second night in the palace was heavy with silence. Torches burned along the stone walls, their flames swaying with the cold wind that crept through the halls. The human stood at his post outside the princess's chamber, his back straight, his eyes scanning the shadows. Other guards passed by, their armor shining, their voices low, but their glances always carried the same doubt. They still thought of him as an outsider, a weak link, someone who would fail at the first sign of danger. But the human did not move, did not speak. He only watched, his hand resting lightly on the hilt of his blade. Inside the chamber, the princess tried to rest, but her mind was restless. She remembered the duel in the training yard, the way the human had moved, the way he had defeated a warrior much stronger than himself. She wanted to dismiss it as luck, as chance, yet something inside whispered otherwise. Suddenly the night air changed. It was faint, but the human felt it. A shift, like the air itself was holding its breath. He turned his head slightly, listening, his ears picking up the smallest sound, a soft scrape, metal against stone high above the courtyard. Then another sound, the flutter of cloth, quick movements, too controlled to be the wind. The human's grip tightened on his blade, his voice steady as he called to the guards nearby. "Shadows on the wall," he said. "We are not alone." The guards frowned, annoyed. "Nothing is there, human. Go back to watching the door." But, even as they mocked him, a figure dropped silently from the roof, landing with the grace of a predator. Black cloth wrapped the intruder, blades glimmered in both hands. Before the guards could react, more shadows leapt down, 5, 6, 7 of them moving like a swarm. The palace exploded into chaos. Shouts rang out, weapons clashed. The princess sat up in her chamber, fear striking her heart, her eyes wide. Outside her door, the human was already moving. He stepped forward, his blade flashing, catching the first assassin's strike. The force drove him back a step, but he held, his feet firm, his eyes unshaken. The assassin hissed, moving fast, blades cutting like lightning, but the human matched the rhythm, blocking, dodging, striking back. The alien guards rushed in, but many fell quickly, their pride making them reckless, their strength wasted against the trained killers. The human fought differently, his movements precise, controlled, every strike meant to protect, not to show power. One assassin slipped past the line, racing toward the princess's door. The human saw it, his heart hammering. He pushed against, his enemy with sudden force breaking free, and threw himself between the assassin and the door. Steel clashed, sparks flew. The human gritted his teeth, his arms burning, but he did not step aside. The princess opened the door slightly, her eyes wide as she saw the fight. The assassin snarled, "Step aside, human. She is not yours to protect." "The human answered through clenched teeth. "She is mine to guard." With a twist of his blade, he disarmed the assassin, the weapon clattering to the floor. Then with a strike of his fist, he sent the enemy crashing against the wall. The princess's breath caught, surprise mixing with fear. The fight raged on in the courtyard. More guards fell, the assassins cutting through them like shadows of death. The human joined the line again, his blade stained, his eyes sharp. He moved faster now, every motion powered by will, not strength. An assassin swung low, another came from behind, but the human dropped, rolled, and struck upward, cutting one down, forcing the other back. Blood stained the stones, shouts echoed. Through the hall the smell of iron filled the air, but still the human stood. Still he fought, even as his arms ached, Even as his breath grew heavy, the assassins began to hesitate, their easy victory slipping away. One of them hissed, "Kill the guards, but leave the human. He will break on his own." But he did not break. He was cut across the arm. His shoulder burned with pain, yet he pushed forward, blocking, striking, protecting. At last, the surviving assassins pulled back, their leader signaling retreat. They leapt into the shadows, vanishing as quickly as they had come. Silence fell over the courtyard, broken only by the groans of the wounded. The human lowered his blade, blood dripping from his wound, sweat shining on his face. The princess stepped out of her chamber, her dress shining in the torchlight, her eyes fixed on him. For the first time, her voice was not sharp, not cold, but soft, almost uncertain. You saved me," she whispered. The human looked at her, his voice calm though his body ached. "I told you, princess, I will guard you." She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came, her throat tight, her chest heavy. Around them, alien guards bowed their heads, their pride broken, their eyes filled with shame. Because tonight the outsider had done what they could not. He had stood, he had fought, and he had won. The princess turned her face away, hiding the strange feeling growing inside her. Respect. Far in the darkness beyond the palace, the assassins gathered with their leader. The leader's eyes burned, his voice cold. "We failed tonight, but we will strike again, stronger, sharper, until she falls." The war in the shadows was only beginning, and the human had just made himself the enemy's greatest obstacle. But he did not care, for he had chosen his place, and nothing, not even death, would move him from it. The palace was no longer safe. The attack in the night had proved it. Assassins had entered too easily, too boldly, and though they had failed, they would return. The alien leader stood in his throne room, his golden armor glowing in the morning. Light, his voice deep with decision. "My daughter cannot stay here. The shadows are too many, the danger too close," he said. Whispers filled the chamber. Generals argued, guards protested, but no voice could change his choice. She would be moved to a hidden stronghold, far across the forest, a place unknown to enemies. The princess listened, her arms folded, her chin lifted with pride. But in her heart, she felt a flicker of unease. Leaving the palace meant leaving the walls, the armies, the safety of stone and steel. Her silver eyes moved to the human standing silently beside the throne, his blade still stained from the night before. Her father turned to him. "You will go with her, you will guard her until she reaches the stronghold." The hall went silent. Every alien warrior stiffened. Again, the human was chosen. Again, he was trusted with the most important task. The generals could not hide their anger. "This is madness. Let our finest warriors go. Let the human rest. He is not made for this." But the leader's voice cut through their protests. "Last night, my finest warriors fell, but he stood, he kept her alive. He is the one I trust." The words were final. The princess's lips tightened, but she did not argue. She remembered the moment when the human had blocked the assassin's blade with his own body, the wound on his shoulder, the way he had not stepped aside. That memory silenced her pride, though she would not admit it. By noon, the journey began. The gates of the palace opened, and a small group of riders prepared to leave. At the front, the princess sat tall on a dark creature that moved like a horse, but carried scales along its neck, its eyes glowing faintly. Beside her walked the human, his hand on the reins of his simpler mount, his eyes scanning the forest that spread out like an endless sea. Behind them rode a few alien guards, silent, tense, their pride wounded from the leader's choice. The forest swallowed them quickly, its tall black trees rising like pillars of an ancient temple, its shadows stretching across the path. Strange cries echoed through the leaves, creatures unseen, but always listening. The princess broke the silence, her voice calm, but sharp. "Do you really believe you can keep me safe, human?" The human did not look at her, his eyes stayed on the trees. "Yes," he said, her lips curved in a faint smirk. "You speak as if death does not frighten you." "It does," he answered, But duty is stronger than fear. She turned her face away, hiding the thought that stirred inside her. Hours passed, the path grew narrow, roots twisted across the ground. The guards muttered behind them, their voices low. He slows us down. He is no rider. Why trust him? But again, the human did not answer. He only watched every sound, every shadow. By evening, the group reached a broken bridge, its stone crumbled, its ropes half-cut. The guards argued, we should turn back, find another path. The princess frowned. That will waste days, we cannot. The human stepped forward, testing the ropes, his hands steady, his eyes sharp. It will hold one at a time, he said. But we must move fast. The guards hesitated, but the princess urged her mount forward, the bridge swaying beneath her. The human followed close behind, his steps careful, his body ready. Halfway across, the rope snapped, the bridge tilted. The princess's mount screamed, almost slipping. She grabbed the reins, fear flashing across her face. The human leapt forward, one hand grabbing the rope, the other pushing the mount back onto the boards. The bridge groaned, but it held, the princess safe. Her eyes widened as she looked at him, her breath fast. You saved me again, she whispered. He only nodded, his face calm. It is my duty. The guards crossed quickly after, their fear showing in their pale faces. When they reached the other side, the forest grew darker, the light fading fast. They made camp among the twisted roots of an ancient tree, fire burning weakly against the cold air. The guard slept uneasily, but the human did not. He sat awake, his blade across his knees, his eyes on the shadows. The princess watched him quietly, the firelight flickering across his face. At last, she spoke, her voice softer than before. Why do you not rest? You are wounded, tired, yet you refuse to close your eyes. The human looked at her, his voice steady. Because danger does not rest, and neither can I. For the first time, her pride wavered, her heart stirred. She turned away quickly, but her thoughts whispered. Perhaps he is not weak. Perhaps he is not foolish. Deep in the forest, far beyond their campfire, eyes glowed in the dark, hunters moving quietly through the shadows. The assassins had not given up. They had followed, and tonight they planned to strike again. The journey had only begun, and already the human was carrying the weight of life and death on his shoulders. But he did not complain, did not fear. He only sat in silence, waiting for whatever came next. Because guarding her was not just his order, it had become his promise, and promises were not broken. Not by him, not while he still drew breath. The forest was alive with whispers. Branches swayed above like black arms, and strange lights glowed between the trees. The small group of travelers moved slowly, tired from the long road. The princess rode at the front, her silver cloak catching the dim light, her eyes alert. Behind her walked the human, his blade at his side, his eyes searching every shadow. He had not slept since they left the palace. His face pale with fatigue, but his steps never wavered. At night, when the guards closed their eyes, he remained awake, sitting near the fire, listening to every sound. The princess noticed, though she tried not to show it, one evening, as the flames burned low, she finally spoke, her voice softer than before. You never rest, human. You bleed. You tire. Yet you act as if none of it matters. He looked at her, his face calm. It matters, he said, but your life matters more. Her lips parted slightly, her heart catching at his words. She wanted to laugh, to call it foolish, yet she could not, because his eyes were steady, without pride, without lies. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the crackle of fire. At last she whispered, Why risk so much for me? You are not one of us, you owe me nothing. His answer came like stone, firm and simple. Because you ordered me to guard you and I gave my word. The princess turned away quickly, hiding the warmth rising in her chest. No one had ever spoken like that to her before, not even her own people. To them she was duty, bloodline, crown, but to him she was simply a promise. The next day danger found them again. As they crossed a clearing, the ground shook, and from the shadows crawled a beast, its body covered in thick scales, its eyes burning red, its claws digging into the soil. The guards froze, fear flashing across their faces. The beast roared, and 2 guards ran forward, their blades shining, but the creature struck fast, swiping one aside, crushing the other beneath its claws. The princess gasped, her mount rearing, nearly throwing her to the ground. The human was already moving, his blade flashing in the dim light. He leapt forward, rolling beneath the beast's claws, striking where the scales were thin. The monster roared, swinging its tail, smashing trees apart. The human was thrown to the ground, his body shaking with pain, but he stood again, his blade still ready. The princess's heart pounded as she watched him. Every guard who faced the beast had fallen, yet the human, wounded and small, refused to step back. He shouted, his voice strong, drawing the beast's attention, leading it away from her. The princess could not stay silent. She grabbed a fallen spear and rushed forward. Her strike caught the beast in the neck, her silver eyes blazing with courage. The human saw her, surprise flickering across his face, but he did not stop her. Together they fought, his blade cutting low, her spear striking high. Blood poured from the monster, its roar shaking the earth until finally it collapsed, crashing into the ground. Silence filled the clearing, the air heavy with smoke and blood. The guards stared in shock, unable to believe what they had seen. The princess stood, breathing hard, her cloak torn, her hair loose, her eyes fixed on the human. "You fought like fire," she said softly, "but you should not have faced it alone." He shook his head. "I would face 1,000 alone if it kept you safe." Her chest tightened, her throat heavy, for the first time she stepped closer to him, laying her hand on his arm. "You are not like the others," she whispered. "You do not bow to fear. You do not bow to pride. You simply stand." The human met her gaze, his voice steady. That is what a guard must do. But she felt something more in his words, something deeper, something unspoken. That night, as the fire burned low again, the princess sat closer to him, no longer distant, no longer cold. They spoke in quiet tones, about small things, about the stars above, about the strange roads ahead. She found herself laughing once, a sound rare and soft, surprising even to her own ears. The human listened, a faint smile touching his lips, but his eyes always stayed alert. Watching the dark, when the laughter faded, silence returned, she asked one more question, her voice careful. "If danger came again, if it cost your life, would you still choose to stand for me?" He did not hesitate. "Yes." The word struck her heart like an arrow, sharp, unshakable. She turned her face away, but her eyes burned, her chest heavy, because for the first time she felt afraid, not of enemies, not of assassins, but of losing him. The bond between them had begun, quiet but strong, forged not in words but in blood and fire. Far away in the hidden camps of their enemies, the traitor who had sent the assassins learned of the beast's death. His anger grew, his eyes burning, with hate. The human lives still, but not for long. Next time he will fall. But the princess did not know this yet. She only knew one truth that she could not escape. The human was no longer just her guard, no longer just her duty. He was becoming something, more, something she did not yet dare to name. The journey grew darker with each passing day. The forest thinned, the mountains rose ahead, their peaks sharp against the sky. The stronghold was near, but the air carried unease, as if every tree watched, as if every stone listened. The princess rode in silence, her thoughts heavy, her eyes often drifting toward the human. Since the battle with the beast, she no longer doubted his strength, she no longer mocked his place. But her heart carried a new weight, fear, not of him failing, but of him falling. She pushed the thought away, yet it returned again and again. That night they camped near a river, its water black beneath the moon. The guards lit fires, cooking their rations. Speaking in low voices, the princess sat apart, her cloak around her shoulders, the human close by, his blade across his knees. The quiet was broken by footsteps, heavy and certain. A figure stepped into the firelight, tall, armored, his face sharp and proud. It was General Varus, one of her father's most trusted warriors. The guards rose quickly, bowing their heads, relief filling their faces. "General, you found us," they said. We thought only a small escort would come. But with you, we are safe." The princess stood, surprise in her silver eyes. "Varys, how did you reach us so soon?" The general bowed slightly, his voice smooth. "Your father sent me to ensure your safety, my princess. The assassins grow bold, and he feared the small group was not enough." The guards nodded, agreeing, their pride wounded from earlier failures, but the human said nothing, his eyes never leaving the general. Something in the man's voice and the way his soldiers did not follow made his skin tighten. Later, when the camp quieted, the human approached the princess, his voice low. "Do not trust him," he said, her brows furrowed, her voice sharp. "Varys is loyal, he has guarded me since childhood, how dare you doubt him?" The human did not flinch, his eyes steady. "Because his story does not fit. He found us too quickly and he came alone." The princess turned away, anger flaring. "You see enemies in every shadow, human. Do not let your fear poison your duty." He bowed his head, saying nothing more, but his hand rested on his blade through the night. As the camp slept, he heard it, the faint click of metal, the whisper of steel being drawn. He rose quietly, moving between shadows, and saw him, General Varys, speaking with cloaked figures at the edge of the firelight, assassins waiting in silence, the eye. Human's chest tightened, fury rising, his suspicion confirmed. He stepped forward, his voice low but sharp. "Traitor." Varys turned, his eyes cold, his smile cruel. "You should have kept silent, human. No one would have believed you anyway." The assassins moved, blades flashing. The human's shout cut through the night. "Guards, wake! To arms!" Chaos erupted, fire scattering sparks into the dark. The princess ran from her tent, her eyes wide as she saw Varys among the assassins. Her heart froze, disbelief choking her voice. "Varys, you?" The general sneered. "Your father is blind, princess. He trusts too easily. The throne should be mine, and your death will open the path." The guards rushed forward, but Varys struck with deadly power, cutting them down, his strength unmatched. The assassins swarmed, their blades hunting for her. The human stood in front of her, his blade ready, his body a shield. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice calm, though the storm raged around them. The fight tore through the camp, firelight flickering against steel, shouts echoing into the night. Varys moved like a beast, striking, with fury, his blade nearly shattering the human's guard. The human stumbled back, his arm burning with pain, but he did not fall. The princess cried out, rushing forward with a fallen spear, but Varys struck it aside, laughing. "You hide behind him, princess, a weak human? Is this the future of your crown?" But the human's voice cut through his taunts. "Weakness is not in the body. It is in the heart, and mine will not break." With sudden force he lunged, his blade striking true, cutting across Varys's side. The traitor roared, rage flooding his face. His strike came like thunder, but the human twisted, blocking, pushing, refusing to step away. The assassins faltered, seeing their leader wounded. The guards rallied, their shame burning into fury, fighting back with new strength. The battle raged until at last, the assassins pulled away, dragging Varys into the shadows, retreating with curses. Silence fell over the broken camp, bodies lying in the dirt, fire dying low. The princess stood frozen, her heart heavy, her eyes fixed on the human who bled but still stood. He looked at her, his face calm despite his wounds. "I told you, princess, he could not be trusted." Her throat tightened, guilt cutting deep. "And I did not believe you," she whispered. He shook his head. "It does not matter. You are alive. That is what matters." Her eyes burned, not from anger, not from pride, but from something she could no longer deny. She stepped closer, her hand trembling as she touched his arm. "You are more loyal than any of my kind, more true than those I once trusted." He bowed his head slightly, but his eyes never left hers. The bond between them, once fragile, now burned with fire. Tested, in blood and betrayal, but far in the shadows, Varys swore revenge, his rage growing darker, his plans sharper. The human had humiliated him, had wounded him, and for that he would not stop until the outsider was dead. The war was no longer hidden, it was open, burning, and the end would demand more than loyalty. It would demand sacrifice. The journey had reached its end. The mountains loomed above like jagged teeth, the hidden stronghold only a few hours away, but the air was heavy, thick with danger, as if the earth itself held its breath. The princess rode in silence, her silver eyes troubled, her heart torn between hope and fear. The human walked close beside her, his wounds bound with cloth, his steps steady though his body ached. Every sound of the forest made his hand tighten. On his blade, every shadow made him pause. He knew the traitor would not stop, not after failing twice, not after being wounded. And he was right. At the edge of the forest, where the path opened into a wide valley, the ambush came. Figures poured from the cliffs above, assassins in black, their blades gleaming, their eyes burning, and at their front, armored and furious, stood General Varus. His wound was healed, his face twisted with hate, his voice thundered, "End them all, leave no survivors. The princess dies tonight." The guards around her froze, fear in their eyes, their will broken. The human stepped forward, his blade raised, his voice calm. "Stay behind me, princess." The assassins charged, the valley filling with the clash of steel. The guards fought, but they were few, and one by one they fell. The human moved like fire, his blade cutting, blocking, striking. Every motion fueled not by strength, but by unbreakable will. The princess watched, her heart racing, every strike he made tearing deeper into her soul. Varus pushed through the fight, his blade raised, high, his voice like thunder. "This ends, human, you cannot stop me." The human met him, their blades crashing, sparks flying, the ground shaking with each strike. Varus was stronger, taller, faster, but the human did not fall. He blocked, dodged, struck back, his body bleeding, his breath heavy, but his spirit burning brighter than ever. The princess cried out, her voice breaking. "Stop, Varus, this is madness. You were once loyal, once trusted." But Varus only laughed, his voice bitter. "Loyalty is weakness, trust is foolish, power is all that matters." His strike sent the human crashing to his knees, his blade nearly torn from his hands, blood ran down his arm, his vision blurred. But he rose again, his voice steady. "Power without honor is nothing, and you will fall." They clashed again, steel screaming against steel, the sound echoing through the valley. The assassins closed in around the princess, but she seized a fallen spear, her silver eyes blazing. She fought, striking hard, her cloak torn, her breath fast, standing as more than a princess, standing as fire beside him. The human saw her, pride flickering in his eyes, but his heart ached, because he knew the truth. He could not win this fight and live. Not against Varus, not against so many, but he could win long enough to keep her alive. Varus struck again, the human's blade shattered in his hand. The princess gasped, "No," her heart breaking. But the human did not fall. He seized the broken steel, and with a roar he drove forward, striking Varus through the chest. The traitor's eyes widened, his mouth open in shock, before he collapsed to the ground lifeless. The assassins froze, their leader gone, fear flooding their eyes. The guards, though broken and bleeding, rose again, driving the enemy back. One by one, the assassins fled into the shadows, their courage gone. Silence fell over the valley, broken only by the sound of fire crackling, of wind whispering through the grass. The princess turned, her heart pounding, her eyes searching. The human stood in the center of the field, his body swaying, his wounds deep, blood running down his chest. She rushed to him, catching him as he fell to his knees. "No," she whispered, her voice shaking, her hands pressing against his wounds. "You cannot leave me, not now, not after all this." He looked at her, his face pale, his breath shallow, but his eyes still steady. "I told you, princess," he whispered, his voice soft but firm. "I will guard you, even if it costs my life." Tears filled her eyes, her silver lashes wet, her voice breaking. "You are more than my guard, you are my shield, my courage, my hero." His lips curved faintly, the smallest smile. "Then I did not fail." And with those words, his body grew still, his hand slipping. From hers, the princess held him close, her tears falling onto his face, her heart breaking. Around her, the guards bowed their heads, silence heavy. They knew they had witnessed something greater than any crown. any throne. They had seen a human stand where no one else could. They had seen him give everything for duty, for loyalty, for her, the princess. Lifted her face, her silver eyes burning with fire. She whispered to the wind, to the stars above, "You will not be forgotten, not while I live, not while I rule." In the end, the outsider had become more than a guard, more than a soldier. He had become a legend, and though his life was gone, his strength lived on. In her heart, in her people, in the story that would be told for generations. The story of the human who stood when no one else would. The human who proved that courage was stronger than power. The human who gave his life and in doing so became eternal.